Okay, hi Miss B's class. If you need extra help with plotting Mars's orbit, this is where you need to be. I am going to be explaining how we plot Mars's orbit a little bit further. So, what you should have on your paper, at the very least, is what you see. You should have a 5-centimeter circle that represents Earth's orbit around the sun, and then you should also have a straight line off to the right off of your sun that is labeled 0 degrees. Okay, so to start, look at your plotting Mars's orbit worksheet. You will find at the very bottom the data table. Under the first Mars orbit point, you have the date November 28th, 1580. On November 28th, 1580, the Earth was 66.5 degrees from the sun. So what we need to do first is plot where Earth was on its orbit. Remember, your circle is your orbit. So you will take your protractor, place the sun, your center dot, in that little circle, okay? You also need to make sure that this black line here lines up with your 0 degree mark, okay? Once you have everything lined up, you need to plot 66.5 degrees. So if you look at my paper here, you'll see that my protractor has 2 sets of numbers. We have numbers on the inside that start at technically 0, but the first one you see is 10. And then you have some numbers on the outside that start at technically 180, which is here, but the first number you see is 170. We need to always start at 0. So we are looking at the numbers on the inside. Your protractor might be different. It might have the numbers on the outside starting at 0. Just make sure you pay attention. You need to start at 0. So 66.5, we are going to go around. Here is 60. If I follow 60 up through here, it says 120 here, but this is still 60, okay? To be more precise, I'm going to use these tick marks here. So 65 is here, 66, and 66.5 is right somewhere here. Okay, I'm just making a little tick mark here to show where that angle's at. I now need to make sure that that little tick mark is on Earth's orbit because I'm plotting where Earth is on its orbit. So make sure the straight end of your protractor is lined up with the sun and that little tick mark we made over here, and just draw a little mark on Mars's orbit. Sorry, Earth's orbit. This is Earth's orbit. Label that 1, okay? Now that we have Earth's first plotting point, we need to go over to Mars's first plotting point. We see that Mars, on the same date, November 28th, 1580, Mars is 66.5 degrees from the Earth, okay? Not the sun, but from the Earth. However, 66.5 degrees is the same angle Earth was from the sun. This tells us that Mars, on this date, November 28th, 1580, Mars was in opposition to the sun. If you remember from class, when Mars is in opposition from the sun, we could draw a straight line from the sun through Earth to Mars. So you're going to go ahead and do that. Draw a straight line out into space. The only reason we can do this is because Mars on that date is in opposition to the sun. So now we know Mars is somewhere on this line. We don't know where on this line, but it's somewhere out in space over here. So that's why we have our second data point. So under the same Mars orbit point 1, we look at our second date. It says on October 16th, 1582, Earth's position on its orbit, which is our circle here, it was 22.5 degrees from the sun. So now we need to put our protractor on our sun, make sure the sun is in the center circle, line up the 180 degree line with your 0 degree line, and plot 22.5 degrees. So remember, start at 0 and go up to 20, 21, 22. Okay? Now you are going to make sure that little tick mark is on Earth's orbit, which is your circle. It needs to be on Earth's orbit. On the same date, October 16th, 1582, we see that Mars was 107 degrees from Earth. Remember, not from the sun, but from Earth. So we need to now plot where Mars was. So place your center circle on Earth's position. Make sure your 180 degree line here lines up parallel with your 0 degree mark. Then plot 107 degrees. So remember, we're starting at 0, going up to 100. Okay, here's still 100. Now I'm going 105, 106, 107. It's somewhere right here. Okay, and I just make a little tick mark out in space. Mars is out in space here, so I can just put a tick mark there. Okay, now line up your second Earth position with Mars's angle from Earth with the straight end of your protractor. You will draw a line between the two. Where they intersect here, we have Mars's first point in its orbit. Okay, Mars 1. All right, so if that was a little challenging, let's go ahead and do the second one together. So under Mars's orbit point 2, our second row, we see that on January 7th, 1583, Earth's position was 107 degrees from the sun. So place the sun in the center, 180 lined up with 0, and look for 107 degrees. We have 100 here, 105 here, 106, 107. So make a little point here to be precise, right? But we need to make sure that's supposed to be Earth. Earth isn't out in space, it's on its orbit line here, okay? So we need to line it up and make sure that little tick mark is down here on Earth's orbit, right? This is 2. This is 1, that's Mars 1. This is 2, okay? Now that we have Earth's orbit, or Earth's position in its orbit 2, we need to plot Mars's place. Okay, we see that Mars for the same date was at 107 degrees from Earth. If you remember, that's the same angle Earth was from the sun. That means that Mars is in opposition to the sun again. So we get to draw a straight line through Earth out into space, and Mars will be somewhere on this line. So now we need to move down to our second data point. On November 11th, November 24th, 1584, Earth was 62.5 degrees from the sun. So we come back down here, put the sun in our center circle, 180 lined up with our 0 degree mark right here. And now we need to plot 62.5. So start at 0 down here, 60's here, 61, 62.5. Okay? Remember, this is Earth. So Earth needs to be down on its orbit. Make sure your tick mark is on Earth's orbit, not out in space. On the same date, Mars was not on the same angle as Earth. It was actually 144 degrees from Earth. So now we put our center circle on Earth's plot, line it up with the 0 degree mark, and plot 144 degrees. There's 140 over here, 141, 42, 43, 44. Somewhere over here. Mars is past Earth's orbit, so it gets a mark out in space somewhere. Now we need to line up Earth's second plot and Mars's second point and draw a line. Where they intersect will be Mars's second point. Okay, hopefully this helps you get through any points that you have not gotten through yet. If you still have questions, feel free to email me. I will do my best to answer them. I will see you Tuesday, and good luck on the rest of your paper.